about 10 billion Guyana dollars per annum, and which is confirmed by Transparency International, which is confirmed by Economic Heritage Foundation, to outside institutions which deal with these matters. So we feel job creation is fundamental. We have to get that entrepreneurial class. One of the other big things in relation to getting that entrepreneurial class is to ensure that these nation, or what you call potential entrepreneurs, will have capital. They don't have capital in Guyana. The commercial banks lend money at a rate of 16% interest. We feel that a state development bank should be created where for people who have legitimate, genuine business plans for agro-businesses, for agriculture, for certain crafts and so on, they can go and borrow at a 4%, 5% interest rate. That also will help entrepreneurs who will then need workers to work with them. We also feel that the licensing arrangement, the huge red tape and bureaucracy, you have to go get this license and that license, you have to go past certain provisions of the law which requires more than mere licenses, but permissions from governmental institutions. Remember, Guyana was largely public sector run. Everything was state and state. We have to delete from the statutes very many of those provisions so that there can be a fast tracking of people who wanting to do business in Guyana can get businesses done. Because we feel that creation of businesses is going to solve the job creation that we are talking about.
On governance, Bobby, this is going to be one of my main areas of focus. We want to create a freer, better functioning, more open and cohesive society. Right now, fear permeates the land. It's almost as if we've become a big brother state. People who have confessed to me and openly that they're more afraid now than they were under the Burnham regime, for example. And these are people who are in the PPP, who are in the PPP. And so when we speak of a liberal democracy, we're speaking about a freer, more open society, one in which your basic rights as a citizen are respected. Cameron referenced just now the situation with his former client who was burnt with kerosene during what should have been a routine questioning at a police station. We know of people who have been killed by members of the armed forces and the disciplined forces. We know of atrocities being committed on a daily basis by the state, and there seems to be a level of high-handedness. I can give you the case of Paul Slow, speaking out on his passing out parade about the situation with a fellow officer, Mark Bean, and before you know it, he was brought up for contempt of court by the Attorney General. That's the level of fear that has been established in our society. So we want to create a society, one in where we can have broadcasting licenses given out on a merit basis, you know, not to any and everybody as they request them, but based on a plan for our development and what it is we want to achieve in terms of cohesion. We want to ensure that there's freedom of information and broadcast legislation. We want to ensure that the judiciary is a better functioning one. We want to ensure that, like I said, we dismantle the executive presidency, but we just don't do that. We find ways in which we can dissolve and devolve that power both to the parliament, the regional democratic councils, and right down to the villages and communities, so that we have a more freer society where people are more in charge of their day-to-day lives. So that's the kind of society not only we know we want to construct, but one which we know we can construct, because we've interacted with our brothers and sisters in Ghana. We've looked at other models. We've listened to the arguments coming out of people from ACDA, from the Indian Arrival Committee. Ravi Dev is a strong writer on other issues. But what we accept is that the society and the system of governance that we have now is certainly not working. And the longer we take to do something about it, it is the greater we will take ourselves into peril. So immediately on taking government, one of the first things we're going to do is start a national conversation with all of the stakeholders, some of whom have views we don't like at all, but we need to listen to them. And so we're going to have to draw from people from all of the different, from across the spectrum, stakeholders, and ask how can we really establish a society based on Article 13 of our Constitution that is a a more inclusive, freer society, one in which we know that will give us that El Dorado, which eluded from Raleigh right through to Jagdeo. We know that Ghana is El Dorado. We know that we can produce it, but the only way we can get it done, Bobby, is when we work together. If one group tries to get that treasure alone, it will not get it. I think the treasure will be released when we find a mechanism and a system that opens it up. So we're prepared to start that national conversation. We have our own ideas, but we're not saying that our ideas are the only ideas. There are other ideas that speak of federalism. There are ideas that speak about executive power sharing. We have to listen to everyone, and at the end of the day, craft a system that is best suited to our unique set of circumstances, and that's what we're prepared to do.
It is One Caribbean Radio, 55 minutes past the hour. We're going to go to Dennis momentarily, but we're chatting with Mrs. Kembraj Ramjatan and Raphael Trotman here on Meet the Caribbean as we talk about elections coming up in Guyana. We're also chatting, or in fact, part of our panel happens to be Dennis Brawl of Demerara Waves down in Georgetown, Guyana. Dennis, just hold your question. We're going to take a little break, let the fellas just slip some saliva down their throats, and we'll be right back.
From the Caribbean to you, your news and information station, One Caribbean Radio.
Yeah, that's right, and we are back, of course, with our visitors and our guests in studio, Mrs. Kembraj Ramjatan and Raphael Trotman of the Alliance for Change. We also have Dennis Brawl in Georgetown. Dennis, are you there? All right, Dennis, well, I'll give you the opportunity to fire the next question.
Well, thank you. I'll ask Kembraj to answer the second one about the laptops and the going up against an incumbency.
By the way, before we even do answer, let me extend greetings to our listeners across the World Wide Web. I'm watching my portal here, and we've got a tremendous amount of people logged into the internet, and I'm sure people in Guyana as well are all part of it. So I think we're doing great here. We've got a wide audience. And while you do that, let me also ask about the diaspora. And what role do you expect, so that when you answer collectively, you'll tell us what role you expect the diaspora to play in the AFC as it moves towards national elections in Guyana?
Well, thanks, Bobby, and again, welcome and hello to everyone out there and on the web. One of the important things or areas that I have personally committed to getting involved in is the whole issue of crime and security. And I've governance, crime, security, and the integration of the diaspora into the development or redevelopment of Guyana. But to answer Dennis's particular question about dealing with middle and higher level officers and ranks who are alleged, that is by a very word alleged, it means that we can't go on an inquisition. We have to do the right thing. But I think what we have is the political will to go and have these investigations done. We are in our action plan committed to inviting, as a matter of urgency, both the DEA to establish its office, which it has been requesting for many years now in Guyana, and secondly, to re-invite the British government to resubmit the security sector reform plan, which, as you know, was scuttled by the PPP government, and which we believe provided the most comprehensive support and relief for our security sector. So certainly we will have to start with reconstructing the entire officer corps, particularly in the police force, by having a new set of young and patriotic and hopefully incorruptible officers brought into the force, we're going to have to find ways to identify and to remove those who are giving the force a bad name. We still believe that both within and outside of the force are excellent men and women who have served and who are capable of serving, and who, I'm sure, because some have given their commitments, are prepared to come back. So rest assured that we will deal condignly with members of the police force and the GDF who we are aware are in bed with unsavory characters and drug lords. In terms of crime and security, we have been engaged with persons both in Guyana and out of Guyana who are considered security experts. They're lined up, they're prepared to come, and it is one of those things that I said that I am personally committing to get involved in and seeing through to the end. Crime is never going to be something that is going to be easy to fight, but we are going to confront it not only by ourselves, but we are going to get the necessary international support. Rajan,
yeah, the laptop and the incumbency projects for elections here, as we know. Yeah, and look, that puts the opposition, all opposition, when governments do that, it puts all opposition at a disadvantage. It is an abuse of the state resources. We know that they're using the state resources to fund these, and it has what some great philosopher says, like religion, it is like an opium of society. It's the opiate. It makes them all dance together and around the government of the day, so that come elections day, they will then go and vote for the government and so on. But we feel that Guyanese have gotten smart. We feel that Guyanese have appreciated that this government is corrupt, and by virtue of spending so much money on all these fancy singers of exotic dancers and whatever coming from abroad to excite them in their moments of crisis, that will not go down good. Very many of the young people, I suppose, might very well want to go. When they go, they have a nice time. They will not be fooled, however, that indeed this is something that the government is seeking to appeal and attract them for purposes of politics. We feel that the people are going to smarten up to the extent of feeling that this is but just a ruse, and they're not going to fall victim to this kinds of ruses at this elections. Guyanese, as I have indicated, are getting a little smarter. We have indicated through Sheila Holder in Parliament that there ought to be a code of conduct as to how we conduct ourselves. There was one that was out of India that we had asked that should be put to the test, whether the government would want to adopt that. This is where none of the state resources will be used by any government official during the campaign period. They can't even use vehicles and go out on their ministerial outreaches, which are largely party activities, to bring a halt to that. But we rather support that they are not going to use that code of conduct out of India in relations to election campaigning periods. They're going to enjoy those facilities. There is hardly anything we can do about that, Dennis, because they will say, well, that's a privilege and an entitlement of incumbency, that they can use whatever state resources. But we feel that there ought to be some electoral monitoring unit that should make some statements as to whether they're taking too much time on state television, not giving the opposition enough time, whether they're dominating the radio and so on, so that people could know the advantages, the edges that the government has. But of course we feel that with a PPP government, none of these things will happen. So we simply have to go and tell the people, okay, they're giving you a laptop, take the laptop, but make sure that you vote reason and not beguiled into thinking that the laptop now should make you vote for the PPP. We have to do that.
You know, let me just add, sorry Dennis, let me just add that it is because we know we're going up against a formidable incumbent in the PPP that we need all of the resources that we can marshal, particularly resources that are here in the diaspora.
Oh yes.
We need from a pen to pencils to pieces of paper to write on, the people who have outboard engines and vehicles that they can loan us or give to us. They don't have to be brand new. Computers. This will take a national effort, and it's going to take a kind of a velvet revolution, in the sense that we need an uprising of Guyanese everywhere to say that we've had enough and we want a change.